Greetings everyone, this is Spartan275, Captain of the Victorville Victinis, and welcome to the Week 2 battle versus Lazy Ghosts and the Birmingham Arons. So with the matchup that I'm looking at, I noticed that he brought Infernape, Mega Gardevoir, Salamence, Porygon 2, Fortress, and Nidoking. I was not expecting the Nidoking or the Fortress, but really was expecting Porygon 2, Salamence, Mega Gardevoir, and Infernape. So with the matches that I'm seeing, I can see that Slowking is by far the best with lead, as it would gauge if he leads Infernape and see whether or not what kind of set he has. So without further ado, get into the match. All right, so he sends out his Infernape, which I expected he would lead, and I send out Slowking as expected. For this one, Uh, I just went in and stayed in. I thought going for Skull would be the best play. I gauged off based on the damage, and I calculated it was definitely not Bandit or Life Orb, especially not Life Orb. So I was kind of safe for that, but I knew it was going to be Scarf. He brings in Porygon 2. He he traces the Regenerator. I go for Scald. It does not do a lot of damage. No burns, which is good. So I went ahead and switch out Slowking and bring in Tyranitar. Start bringing in the sand. And with the Smooth Rock, it's going to chip all off his team. He goes for Toxic. It lands. I'm not too worried about it because I basically have Tyranitar as pretty much just a sand lead. Just to set up sand and nothing more. And also to Toxic anything that brings in. So I went for Toxic this turn. He switches out and brings in Fortress. So me going for Toxic was kind of hard for me to go for it, but I wanted to make sure that Porygon 2 gets Toxic because that's important. So I went ahead and switch out Tyranitar and bring in Nidoqueen. He goes for Stealth Rocks, which is a fine move for him. For this turn, I think I went ahead and used Toxic just for a prediction, but he didn't. He goes for Light Screen, so I assume that he had like this may have been a light clay set. So I went ahead and switched out and brought in Grotom to ensure that I can get some pivot in and try to defog the rocks away. He switches out, brings in Porygon 2. So I went ahead and he traces the Levitate, which is something that you'll find out later. I went ahead for this turn to go for Volt Switch. I didn't want to go for Defog, especially if Porygon 2 goes for Toxic. So I went for switch into Nidoqueen. I believe this turn he went for Toxic. Yes, he went for Toxic. So it was good switching for me. Gets a little bit chip damage. Get a little bit health back from Black Sludge. For this turn, I believe I go for Stealth Rocks myself. Which would try to... which is actually pretty good as it actually gauges off on the Fortress. He goes for Tri-Attack, try to go for Hacks. Doesn't get anything out of it. He does do a decent amount of damage. But of course I didn't put a lot of special bulk onto it. I go for Toxic on this turn, and luckily he didn't switch us out, and this gives me a good opportunity to ensure I could do something in the future. He goes for a Recover. I get some life back. Chip Poison starts to set in. Light Screen wears off. And based on the turns it went by, it wasn't light clay. So I went for Earth Power just to deal some damage on the switch in, but he doesn't switches out, and so I didn't get anything out of it. So I went ahead and switched out Needle Queen and brought back an Tyranitar because I knew that it wasn't gonna take any hits, get any hacks other than this, since it's already got poison and it could take try attack very well. So I wasn't too worried about that. Poison gets racked up for a second, another turn, deals some good amount of damage. To be honest, I feel like I should have played Tyranitar a little bit better in this game, but it's nothing I could do. He comes in, breaks the sturdy with the rocks. I go for Stone Edge. It lands, it deals a decent amount of damage. But I notice he doesn't get recovery from leftovers, meaning that he probably was, in my opinion, Custap Berry. So I bring in Rotom, block the Rapid Spin, even though I'm going to get rid of the rocks myself. I go for Defog, wiping out the rocks on both sides of the field. He goes for Light Screen in this turn, if I'm not mistaken. So instead of going for like Volt Switch like I was thinking about going for, I go for Defog again on the next turn, just so that Light Screen doesn't stay up. He switches out and brings in his Neo King. I stayed in, go for the Defog just to get rid of the Light Screen, which was, in my opinion, the best turn that works best for me in this outcome. I went in and switched out just to predict what was it? The Thunderbolt. I mean, not the Thunderbolt, but just any attack. But he didn't. He goes for Substitute. So I assume that he would probably go for Thunderbolt, and if he does, I go ahead and try to break the sub. And I apologize once again that the video got stuttered again. I don't know what happened with the footage. I stayed in, I clicked the Psychic, it breaks this, the Substitute. And for this next turn, I went ahead and switched out to Neo Queen just to outpredict the Thunderbolt. Unfortunately, he doesn't go for it, he stays in, and actually goes for Earth Power, which is good on him. Giving him a knockout for Neo Queen on Neo Queen. So there goes my defensive wall, which kind of hurt. But this gave me a good opportunity to bring in Mega Charizard Y, giving me Sun and almost no fire switch-ins. He switches out into Fortress. I Mega Evolve on this turn. And I believe I clicked Flamethrower to take down the Fortress. There's Drought. I also expected it was Occaberry, but nothing happened when I attacked. Goes down. He was probably Custap Berry, and Fortress goes down. That's good on my end. He brings out Porygon 2. Which I was surprised that he did. So I actually stayed in and went for Flamethrower so that Poison could rack to a certain point. I know it wasn't gonna knock it out, but I know it would help me out, chip it down with Poison. He goes for Thunder Wave, which kind of hurt, but at the same time, I wasn't too worried about it because Mega Charizard did its job. It took down Fortress and also stopped Porygon 2 from being troublesome. I break through the paralysis and took down Porygon 2. I feel like that he could have recovered and tried to bait out and prayed for hacks on his in his favor. So it could have been a 50-50 in this game at this point. So I think he went for the more optimal play. He takes out my Mega Charizard with Thunderbolt with his Needle King. And this is where I really had to play aggressive and actually go for the 50-50. I attack because I didn't want substitute to be up. Um, and also, I noticed that if I let New Kings have a substitute, I would have actually lost this matchup. So I had to attack. I couldn't switch out because if I switched out, I had to break the sub and then attack Neo King, which Neo King can easily attack and deal damage and weaken any of my mons. So this turn right here was an important turn right here. He goes for sub. I stayed in and go for crunch to break the sub, which was very important. I had about maybe 4 turns of sand left after this, so I wanted to preserve Tyranitar, so I withdrawed it and sacked Rotom for this because Rotom was initially for rocks and basically for Rotom Mo, but yeah, I had to let us sack it, and this gave me a chance to bring out Stoutland. As Stoutland with Sand Rush would be able to outspeed it. Anything that you would most likely have outside of probably Scarf and Fernape, I think. I'm not 100% sure. No, actually, I am 100% sure. He brings in Salamence. I noticed that there was no intimidation, but I didn't want to get Stoutland weakened, so I withdrawed it out, and went ahead and sacked Slowking because it pretty much did its job. It lived on 13 health, which really surprised me. And even with sand, it didn't go down. It had like 1 HP. He goes for he's stuck with outrage. He takes me out. I guess I assumed it was probably it was Scarf because it wasn't like bandit damage. He gets confused and gets him chipped off of the sand. I bring in Stoutland. I go for the Ice Fang here. I could have went for Frustration, but I didn't. He switches into his Infernape. I go for the Ice Fang. Unfortunately missed, which I am not 100% sure if it would have been very beneficial or not. So I switch out, bring in Tyranitar for the last amount of turns of sand. As last mon I have is pretty much Stoutland, because I know that whatever Infernape would go, it's gonna take out Tyranitar, so might as well. He switches out and he brings into Mega Gardevoir. I'm not 100% sure that was the best play, but I could at the same time I would understand that. So Stoutland's the last mon I have. I had nothing else to do. I have Choice Band. I had to go for Stab because Stab was pretty much the best choice I had overall. He Mega Evolves. I'm pretty sure I was able to knock it out even if it was like max HP invested or max defense invested. So I went for Frustration, taking it out. So 2 mons left. He brings in Salamence. I knew it wasn't gonna be able to OHKO it, so I know it's gonna 2-hit KO it. I outspeed the Salamence. It does enough damage to take it down for a 2-hit clean KO. I tanked the Outrage very well, not as well as I wanted it, but I tanked it really well. Go for Frustration again. Salamence goes down. Last mon here now is Sun Wukong. If Sun Wukong has Mach Punch, I would have lost this game. I would lose this game, but he didn't. I go for Frustration. I knock out Sun Wukong with a crit. I am not 100%. I'm not certain that crit actually mattered, but nonetheless, that was a very close game. Overall, I think I played very closely with a lot of 50-50s. It came down to that last 50-50 against with Tyranitar and Nidoking, but overall, I think Arthur played exceptionally well. He played to in the end for a win with his win con, which was pretty much Needle King with the sub up, weakening anything that I send out, and able to sweep with probably Salamence. So props to Lazy Ghost. He played exceptionally well, but in the end, I was able to catch the very close 1-0 win. So that's all I have here. Thank you very much for watching. Sorry for being a late upload, but hopefully I'll be able to catch up with the uploads, especially with week 3 coming in. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, thought it was informative and would like more, go ahead and click the like button onto the video. Click the subscribe button, it's totally free. And until next time, I'll catch you guys later.